We've got a new fusion coming our way, which is, of course, happening in the middle of the TMNT collab. So the question is he worth it? Hey you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to break this fusion down, see if it is a champion that is potentially worth it for you guys to go for, and I'll even question myself if it's a champion that I feel I want to try to get. The champ we're looking at is no other than Granyt, which is an interesting name, and I hope I actually said it right. He is a legendary, of course, HP spirit type, part of the dwarves faction. So getting into his aura first, increases ally crit rate in battles by 20%. I don't know if I have yet to use a crit rate aura in battles unless it's something like if I'm doing faction wars and I don't have anything else useful, and maybe that's the one that I use. But I've never leaned towards using it necessarily. Not to say it's a bad one, just my thoughts on it. So looking at the skills themselves, first one, your bard attacks one enemy 3 times. It is nice to have multi-hit. I always think of Fire Knight when I see a multi-hit. Each hit will have a 75% chance of removing a random buff from the target. Each hit will ignore 20% of the target's defense. Reading that, of course, I am leaning now towards PvP and how much potential damage you can actually do on opponents in arena. You have that opportunity to remove buffs, and then ignoring defense, potential to do a lot of damage in here. Second skill, Geode Haymaker, attacks all enemies before attacking, places a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense buff and a block buff debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Again, I'm thinking PvP. So AoE defense break is nice to have, block buffs of course as well being nice, and an increase in accuracy. We have more potential to actually land debuffs. Next up, we have Demolisher Blow. Attacks an enemy before attacking, removes all debuff from this champion, places a 15% shatter buff and a 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Gonna ignore unkillable, stone skin, and block damage buffs. If the target is not under one of those buffs, the attack will deal 100% more damage. Grant an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Potential to do an insane amount of damage from that. The fact that you're removing all the debuffs on him, first of all, and then a shatter buff, which we need to go ahead and take a look. What does shatter actually do? So shatter is going to increase champions ignore a defense by either 7.5% or 15%. So essentially we're gonna have that opportunity to ignore more defense with this skill. So yeah, as I mentioned, an insane amount of damage potential to come out of this skill. I feel like it's aptly named for that. Does also have a passive stone face. At the start of this champion's turn, removes any fear, true fear, provoke, stun, freeze, sleep, and petrification debuffs on this champion. Increases champion's damage inflicted against target with no buffs on them by 20%. So this champion then, overall, looking at this kit, a very PvP focused champion, and not to say you can't use him in PvE. I do think he would be a strong contender for PvE as well, especially faction wars. You can do a crazy amount of damage with that, but also taking him into dungeons. I did mention a multi-hit, of course, so we're thinking of something like a Fire Knight if we're looking at other potential places that he'd be good at with these types of skills. You can also go into something like Hydra even. So going into clan bosses, going into Hydra, you have that triple hit, an AoE defense break, as well as a block buffs. So all of those kind of going hand in hand can do fairly well together. And I mean, thinking of other things too, your Doom Tower, your Cursed City, I think in terms of him being a dwarf, he is a strong contender for a champion. And honestly, for a fusion, he is a little bit tempting for myself. Now, my dwarves could definitely use a little bit of help, and okay, maybe more than a little bit. I paused and I thought about it. I haven't actually built any legendaries, and I actually didn't complete full on Fellbeard with this account, which part of me has a little bit of regrets because yeah, he's a legendary attack and I feel like he's a really good one. A lot of people like him. I unfortunately was just not able to finish the fusion at the time and get him done here. I do have some good epics, but I feel like it's almost haunting me now that we are getting another dwarf fusion. And I will say it's actually open right now, so I can go ahead and take a look at who I'm actually using. But in terms of who I have actually built for my dwarves, it's really 2 champs that I've built, Demitha and Geomancer. I have not actually built any other dwarfs, which is on me. I could probably go ahead and should probably go ahead and build somebody. I'm sure they would help me out with my faction wars going through here, honestly, you guys. So for me, this is actually a very tempting fusion. The only problem is it is going on, of course, amongst the TMNT collab. And I think we are all still waiting for Leonardo. Of course, there was some leaked events of what may potentially be how we go ahead and obtain and get this champion. It's one way to do it. So I know some people were leaning towards, well, I don't think I'm going to have the resources to do Leonardo anyway, so maybe I will potentially go for this fusion. And maybe I will also go ahead and see if I can actually grab him from shards even. And the reason I actually say that is because of this going on right now. There's going to be ×2 for void shards, ×10 Leonardo summoning event, which is starting soon. But essentially by Friday, they're saying they're launching 2 events at the same time, where it is ×2 chance to summon epic and legendary champions from void shards, and a ×10 event to summon Leonardo from void shards. So I do think this is also the potential where some people are like, do I go ahead and take the chance of pulling him from void shards? Do I save those resources for what could potentially be his event to actually get him? That's very 50-50. I think it depends on where you land, how many shards you have. And I know some people are also doing the math and saying, well, how many sacred shards do I have? How many ancients do I have? Do I have enough to try to pull my voids and see if I can grab him and then save everything else? Is it even going to be shards to go ahead and get Leonardo in the future? Is it going to be soulstone pulls? What are we going to need to do to try to actually get this champion? All of these things combined is also thinking about this fusion now and what's coming up fusion, because it is going to be a traditional fusion, which essentially means we're going to need to go ahead, do the events so we can get the rares, fuse those into the epics, and then take those and ascend them and get them built to actually fuse into Granyt so that we can go ahead and grab this legendary fusion. So a lot of things considered. I'm on the fence about it if I'm gonna go ahead and grab him. The only thing is I think my account actually desperately needs this dwarf. But then the other question, and I guess part coming out, is how it is a dwarf fusion yet again. I feel like we kind of like recently, Tholen was recent enough to remember, but if we look at a bunch of the other factions, I feel like some other factions could use a little bit of love when it comes to the fusions coming out. I have almost been playing Raid for a full year, almost, but not quite. And looking through the other factions, I've been thinking about what types of fusions we've had, what we like are still missing, the ones we haven't seen in a while. And I feel like I haven't seen a Dark Elves fusion since I've started like looking at the champs and them. I don't think I've seen one. This could definitely use some love. I don't know. Maybe I was gonna say around Halloween, but who knows? Shadowkin as well. Looking at Shadowkin, I also don't think we've had one in here in a while, but this is where you guys, I guess, can come in and comment and let me know if I'm missing something, because looking through the champions and what potential fusions we've had and everything, I just, the last one that I can really remember more recently, of course, being dwarves, apart from Shayak and Packmaster. Those are other ones that we had the potential, although Packmaster being a fusion not from the recent one, but the dog people were waiting for, of course, being one. So I don't know, I'm kind of surprised it is another dwarf, but then I'm also tempted because I'm like, I could really use a dwarf in here. So I mean, part of me doesn't want to go for it, but I also don't think I necessarily, like, I don't have the resources, I think, to go for Leonardo right now. If I look at my shards, I'm at 0 sacred shards right now. I have 6 of void shards. I could potentially pull these when that is the ×2/×10 event. Maybe I'll have a Hail Mary and somehow pull Leonardo, which I think is what a lot of people are hoping for. So looking at my shards, I know that this one may not really be enough for Leonardo. Anyway, so do I try to bite the bullet, go ahead, see what I can grab from void shards and go forward from there and see if I can get lucky? That might just have to be what I say. Now for the champion itself, and taking a look again at this fusion, if you are going to ask me if I think he's worth it, I honestly do. I think he seems like a pretty good champion. I also think depending on his multipliers and how much damage he can actually do, he might be one of the ones that you want in your roster. He seems pretty good, but I also know that part of that is a little baity, right? They're putting this in the middle of TMNT. They know what we're waiting for. We knew a fusion was going to be coming, but I think a lot of people were just hoping that he would be an easy skip. And I think if you're somebody who is very into the PvP, then he's gonna have a good time getting through heavy defenses, and you know, we're going up against Stone Skin and things like that. So for him to kind of push through all of those types of things in the crowd control, it does make him enticing to actually want to try to get. And as I said, I mean, PvE usage in here as well, of course. I do think he would tremendously help my account out. It's just a matter of if it is something that I'm wanting to use my resources on, or am I gonna want to hold on to them and wait. just as I think you guys might be in the same boat on that one. If you download Raid Shadow Legends using my link, I'm actually going to start you off with the free legendary champion on day 1, and then at level 10, level 20, and level 30, you'll get yourself an epic. That is 4 amazing champions that you can get just by downloading using my link. So I do want to hear from you guys. Comment down below. Let me know, are you interested in trying to go for Granyt? Are you going to try to get him? Is he a fusion that you want to add into your team, into your roster? And let me know if you're also going to be pulling your void shards, hoping to get yourself a Leonardo. Comment down below. I will be sure to respond to everything. I'll let you guys know my thoughts later on in the week if I decide that I do want to actually go for this fusion. And of course, we'll have some back and forth. I'll see what you guys have to say and we will go from there. So be sure that you guys subscribe so you don't miss out in case I do, in fact, go ahead and try to pull my void shards and see if I can get a little extra luck. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!